Here are 3 true scary stories from Reddit. The links to the stories are in the description below. Enjoy. Number 1. I'm not a native English speaker, and ironically, this is the second story where being multilingual has somehow helped me. I recently drove from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Buffalo, New York with my cat. The ride was long and we were making decent time for the most part. It was around 5:30 p.m. and we stopped at a gas station right outside of New York. Even though it was 5:30, it was almost pitch black outside. I had only previously stopped once before to get something to eat at a McDonald's. I also had ordered an iced tea and drank it pretty quickly to try and stay awake. Now, it had hit me and I definitely had to pee. I didn't want to leave my cat in the car, so I put her leash on and we walked into the gas station. "Do you mind if we use the restroom here?" I asked. The clerk behind the counter said sure, and I entered the bathroom with my cat. She jumped up and sat on the counter while I did my thing. The store wasn't empty either. There were a couple guys looking around, browsing for honey buns and cheaper cigarettes than those sold in New York. There also had been a woman talking to the clerk behind the counter. She seemed like she was a regular here, based on their familiarity with each other. My cat jumped about a foot when we heard the doorknob rattle suddenly. I looked over at her, and her tail was as full and fluffy as could be. I laughed and said, "Sorry, it's occupied." She then jumped from the sink and slinked up to her favorite position on my shoulders. She dug into my hair with her claws and did her little grumble at me. She does this when she wants to be let outside. The doorknob rattled again, and she reached out toward the door rather quickly, almost like a strike. "It's still occupied," I called out, but I wasn't laughing this time. I then heard someone speak. It was a man's voice, and honestly, it made my blood run cold. They were speaking a cousin of my native tongue. Remember, English is not my first language. They were saying, "Should I grab her when she comes out?" In my native tongue, grab doesn't really have the multiple connotations like it does in English. Let me grab them before they go. I have to ask them something. Let's go grab a bite to eat. He was grabbed by the hair, etc. They used what was similar to someone taking something, as far as I could tell through the door. "No, the cashier is right there. We can go stand outside. I think her car is the blue one." My cat did her angry grumble-bug sound, and I petted her to try and reassure her. There weren't any windows in the restroom, and my car was parked unwisely around the side of the lot. I parked it a little ways from the lights because I had a lot of stuff, and I didn't want the items to be well lit if someone stood next to the car's window. Oh, and one more thing. My car was not the blue one. I heard their steps retreat, and we sat there for what felt like a very long time. We both jumped when we heard a knock on the door. "Come out quickly, and my girlfriend will lead you through the back to your car. They're standing out by the pumps." It was the store clerk and the woman, whom I thought was a regular customer. I opened the door and the woman ushered me through the back of the store. It wasn't smart to follow someone I didn't know, but I didn't know what else to do. She opened the back door and I could see my car about 20 feet away. I wanted to sprint and jump in my car, but then remembered I used my key fob to set the alarm. I ran, unlocked the car, and the alarm went off. I threw myself into the driver's seat and quickly pressed the button to lock it again. I felt my heart in my throat as I threw the car into reverse and got the hell out of there. On my way out, I noticed the guy standing near the blue car on the other side of the lot. They looked like they were trying to be casual and nonchalantly smoke their cigarettes. They didn't even know I got out. So, to the couple of weird, creepy guys at the gas station, let's never meet. Number 2. This happened just this past weekend, somewhere between Temecula and Rainbow, California, and the whole incident took about 10 minutes. Long story short, I was headed back home with a friend early afternoon from Palm Springs on what would be a 2-hour drive. Earlier that day, me and my male friend, whom I'll call Dan, were out hiking on Mount Jacinto. I was tired, so Dan drove the first hour of the trip home. Around 2:30 p.m., we stopped for gas somewhere between Morillita or Rainbow, California. The place was well populated and even had a Target store down the road, and was not too far from a freeway exit. While Dan was pumping gas, this 17 to 19-year-old guy walked up to him asking for a ride. He even offered to pay. I was just waking up from my nap, so by the time I was fully awake, I saw the teen standing outside my passenger side door. Dan had agreed to give the kid a lift. I glanced over and gave Dan the silent, "What the fuck, dude?" look as they both got in the car. I kept quiet as not to stir anything up. I wasn't able to get a good look at this teen, but from my quick observation, I saw he was a white kid. He had dark brown, possibly black hair. He was around 17 and 19 years of age, 21 at the oldest. He was dressed all in black, wore a beanie, had a backpack, and an older model LG phone, or something similar. He smelled strongly of weed and some other musk. He looked like an emo kid to me. The moment the creepy kid got into the car, he got all crazy and weird. He spoke like a gangster wannabe, and to be honest, I barely paid attention to most of what he was saying. What I did catch was him trying to sell us weed and other drugs. He had his eyes on the Beats by Dre headphones Dan was wearing and wanted to trade drugs for them. He told Dan he should get into doing porn and that there was good money in it. He kept rambling on about how he can set up a casting call and that they should shoot some porn videos. He even gave us a bogus website on where to get bitches. Then creepy kid tried asking us for money, which means he lied about having money for a ride in the first place. He also told Dan his car was trash since all of our camping gear was in the back seat. His mood would jump from super excited to super quiet and brooding. He continued mumbling to himself a lot and laughing at nothing. I just assumed he was really high and off his rocker. I was quiet the whole time and obviously scared. What I didn't know was that creepy kid could see my facial expressions in the passenger side view mirror. He noticed this and asked me in a serious tone, "Why are you acting weird?" And it got really quiet from that point on. Throughout the drive, Dan tried to distract him with a lot of small talk, while I scanned the road for a possible escape plan. Every time we asked creepy kid where he should be dropped off, his tone would change and he would tell us to keep driving. He then would switch back into pimp happy mode. We had originally agreed to drop him off a few streets down. I finally, and quietly, signaled to Dan to get off on a crowded exit, where there was a diner and gas station. At least there would be witnesses in case this whole thing went south. Thank heavens for rush hour traffic. We got off at the exit and lied that we needed to do a quick store stop. We parked the car and told him nice and calmly that he needed to go. It took a while to convince him to get out. Clearly, creepy kid didn't like me, and honestly, I was scared out of my mind. Dan's car was this old clunker stick shift. It tended to die or sputter, and sometimes the gears got stuck, so it took us a good 10 to 15 seconds, which felt like forever, to back out of the parking lot. Creepy kid gave me a long stare down. I could tell he was pissed at me, though he seemed to have liked Dan. By the time we pulled out, I could see that he was calling someone on his phone. When we finally got back onto the freeway, I completely broke down and asked Dan why the hell he did such a stupid and reckless thing. He was the most paranoid person I knew when it came to strangers. Dan told me that when the teen originally had approached him, he said his mom forgot to pick him up and that he just needed a ride a few blocks down. I realized Dan was close to tears too. When Dan said no to him, the teen mentioned that he would ask for my permission. At the time, I was still napping. This creep was determined to get into the car. Dan panicked and felt cornered as creepy kid was about to go to my side of the car. He decided to play along and did what the kid wanted. Dan doesn't do well with confrontations. He panicked and had made a huge mistake. I pointed out that the kid could have easily lured us somewhere and we could have been jumped or carjacked. Hopefully, creepy kid was only a high and crazy runaway rather than a criminal. This was a harsh lesson for Dan about the dangers of picking up a hitchhiker. At least Dan admitted that he fucked up big time. Number 3. This happened just last night. And honestly, I'm still a little shaken up over it. I'll try to retell the tale exactly as it happened, but my fear is sure to have fudged my memory a bit. I work evenings as a dispatcher in a medium-sized Midwestern city. I was driving home at 2 a.m. when I stopped for gas. In retrospect, it was stupid to have stopped at all. The gas station was poorly lit and completely empty of other customers. But I knew the shady areas of town, and this was not usually one of them. As I was pumping gas, I noticed a middle-aged black woman sitting on the curb across the parking lot. It was a cold night and had just started raining. The woman was not wearing weather-appropriate clothing, so she was drenched. When the woman saw that I was watching her, she called out to me from across the parking lot. My second of many stupid decisions that night was choosing to engage her. I was worried about her well-being, so I approached her to see what sort of help I could offer. "Hi, beautiful. I'm just trying to get home, but no one will help me," she said. "I'm trying to get to City A, but the cab ride is $60 and I only have $40. Can you help me?" I don't usually give money to panhandlers, but this woman seemed genuine. The weather was terrible and my job centers around helping people, so I agreed. I told her I didn't have any cash, but if she would come inside with me, I'd take some money out of the ATM and give her a few dollars. When inside, I found the ATM wasn't working. I apologized and told her there was nothing else I could do for her. She followed me back outside, idly chatting with me, as I opened my driver's door to get in. And then she got in my car. I was too shocked to really say anything. I sat staring at her as she buckled herself into the passenger seat. As soon as she got in my car, her demeanor changed entirely. She no longer seemed forlorn. She was extremely excited and restless. "Just take me to my aunt's house," she said. "She can give me money." Of course, alarm bells are going off in my head. Although my first instinct is to tell her to get the fuck out of my car, my gut tells me that would be dangerous. She'd already proven to be unpredictable. She seemed to be high, and I didn't know if she had any weapons on her. Forcing her out of my vehicle, I thought, had the potential to invite a violent reaction. "Where are you asking me to take you?" I finally said. "Just start driving, and I'll tell you where to turn." "No. If you want me to consider driving you somewhere, I need you to tell me where we're going," I say, with no real intention of driving her anywhere. "Don't worry, honey. I'm not one of the bad blacks. I'm not gonna rob you or nothing. Just drive." "No," I repeated. "What is your aunt's address?" "Okay, it's on Street A." "What's the house number?" As I continued asking her questions, she became really agitated. We still hadn't left the gas station parking lot. I considered getting out of the car and heading back into the gas station for help, but A, she seemed to know and be friendly with the one attendant that was inside when I tried to get money, and B, I wasn't about to leave her alone in my car. Finally, she snapped at me and said, "Why are you asking me so many questions? I thought we were friends. You don't trust me? Is it because I'm black?" "I work at a police department," I said. "It's my job to ask these sort of questions." She flipped the fuck out. She started yelling at me about being a snitch, about trying to get her in trouble. In general, she lost her damn mind. At this point, I'm more scared than ever. I just wanted her gone, but my instinct still told me asking her to get out of my car wouldn't work. So I decided to take a risk. "I'm not a police officer. I just work at a police department. Why don't I take you to Walmart and see if they have an ATM that works?" My idea was to get her out of the car as peacefully as possible, then lose her in the store. She liked my idea and immediately calmed down. I knew that driving off with this woman in my car was incredibly risky, but it seemed like my best option at the time. As we were driving, she keeps talking to me. Her thoughts were erratic, bouncing all over the place. It sometimes seemed difficult for her to follow through with one thought, but this is how roughly our conversation went. "I'm glad we're friends now. I have about 5 or 6 people trying to get me. I'm gonna come to your work tomorrow so we can go arrest them together." "Okay, we can talk about that tomorrow. Tonight you said you're trying to get home?" "Yes, honey. I'm trying to get to City B." "City B? I thought you said you needed to go to City A." Yeah, City A, that's what I meant. That's why the cab ride is $40. It's far away." The cab ride is $40? Yeah, baby. You said you have $40. I do, baby. I have $40, but the cab ride is $60. Absolute silence. Are you sure you can't take me to my aunt's house? She lives close by on Street B. I thought you said she lived on Street A. No, baby, I meant Street B. But it don't matter because she won't give me no money anyways. You sure you just can't take me to City A? It was terrifyingly obvious that this woman was utterly full of shit. The details of her story were constantly changing. When we pulled into the Walmart parking lot, she finally got out of my car, only after I got out first, and followed me into the store. I told her before we went to find an ATM, I needed to use the restroom. My plan was to call the police from inside a stall, but she followed me into the restroom, and that's when things got really weird. She grabbed the crook of my arm and whispered into my ear, "If you don't got no money to give me, that's okay. But let me ask you something, sweetie. Do you like getting your pussy ate?" I told her no, as forcefully as I could manage. I entered a stall and locked the door. As soon as I had a barrier between us, I said, "You know, I have some friends at the police department that could probably help you better than I can. I'm just gonna call them and we could figure this out together." Again, at the mention of the cops, she started screaming at me. I just kept reiterating that the police would help her. She snapped at me and stormed out of the restroom, but it wasn't over. I waited to make sure she was really gone. Sure enough, not 60 seconds after she left, she came back into the restroom and started banging on the stall door. She said something that scared me more than anything else. "Hey, come back to your car with me. I left my beer in your car." I blatantly tell her no. I saw her get into my car and she had absolutely nothing with her other than the clothes on her back. After that, she left the restroom again and didn't come back. I waited a good 5 minutes before exiting. I immediately found a manager who called the police for me. Thankfully, I was in a different police jurisdiction than the one I work in. I was mortified at how entirely stupid I had been the whole night and would have died of embarrassment if any of my coworkers had found out. The officer that responded took my statement and advised me to be more careful in the future. He said that sometimes panhandlers turn violent, and just recently there had been a report of a woman who matched my description, assaulting a good Samaritan that had stopped and tried to help her. I definitely learned a lesson on stranger danger, and I'm lucky to have come out unscathed. I'm glad my stupidity didn't kill me. So Reddit, the next time you try to help a stranger late at night, don't. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time.